Hi, everyone, and welcome to The Breakouts, a podcast where we interview extraordinary founders in just under 20 minutes. I'm your host, Akkshay Khosla. Now, you'll find many podcasts out there that are 2 to 3 hours long and interview these wildly successful founders after they've already made it big. But by that point, the founders are already 5, 10, or even 15 years into their journey, so their insights just aren't as actionable anymore. We're doing things a little bit different. We're interviewing founders that are on the cusp of breaking out so that you can learn the playbooks they're using to build category-defining companies today. And we're doing it in just under 20 minutes. Now, just before we get started, go ahead and follow us on Twitter at The Breakouts Pod, subscribe to this YouTube channel, and join our Discord community for aspiring founders. The link is in the description below. A real quick disclaimer right before we get started. This episode is one of the first few we recorded, so the audio and video quality isn't that great. We're working to improve it so that we can deliver a better podcast experience for you guys. But regardless, the insights in this episode and the entrepreneur that we interviewed are amazing, so definitely still go ahead and give it a listen. And I think that's everything I have for you. So without further ado, here's today's guest. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of The Breakouts. We have a phenomenal guest lined up for you today. Today, we have Derek Flanzraich, the co-founder and CEO of Ness. Derek recently raised a $15.5 million seed round earlier this year to build a company at the intersection of health tech and fintech. Absolute pleasure to have you on the pod, Derek. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
100%. Now, Derek, on the breakouts, we'd like to dive straight into it. So we're going to have you here for 2 episodes. This first episode that we have is all about the story behind your startup. And there's 3 things that we're going to focus on. The first is your startup story. The second is how it works. And the third is how you think about winning the industry. To get us started, in a few sentences, what does your startup do and what problem are you trying to solve?
Sure. So at Ness, we're building health and wellness first credit cards. And we're doing that to build a wedge into the healthcare system and ultimately build a consumer first solution for healthcare.
As soon as you said wedge into the healthcare system, my eyes lit up. I'm sure there's a lot to unpack there.
Everyone loves a good wedge.
Yep, they do. So I'm curious, what's your personal background? Do you have prior experience in healthcare and building companies? Tell us a little bit more about you.
Sure. So this is my second company. My first company was called Greatist. I started 6 months out of college, built it into the largest site on the internet for millennials to care about their health. It was a wild ride. We raised a bunch of money, built a big team, sold the company in 2019 to Healthline. And that was my first sort of exposure to the health space broadly. And obviously sitting sort of in the center of the ecosystem also taught me a lot about like what was working and what wasn't. Before starting Ness, I also spent 1.5 years as an advisor, a consultant, an investor in a bunch of different healthcare companies like GoodRx, Galileo Health, NoCD, Peloton. Kind of got a front row seat to some of the what I would call sort of the consumerization of healthcare broadly. So all of that sort of informed obviously what I'm building today.
That is an absolutely wild journey. I'm sure you bring such a depth and a breadth of experience to building in health tech. Your previous company, was it acquired or?
Yeah, Greatist was acquired in 2019 by Healthline, the largest health site on the internet today. Greatist is bigger and better than ever, which is pretty cool. And they've done a really great job of maintaining and growing that voice. And actually my senior leadership team at Greatist are all in like senior, most of them are in senior executive positions at Healthline, kind of running the show now, which is really cool and rewarding to see them kind of infiltrate and take over. That's fun. So yeah, I mean, we had a nice win and, but I wanted a bigger one. So here I am again.
Awesome. And I'm sure all of our listeners have heard of Healthline. You Google anything about health medication, it's one of the first few links that comes up. It is such a privilege to have you on the pod and to be able to learn from you, Derek. So without further ado, let's dive in a little bit more to the product itself. So Ness is a credit card first wedge into the healthcare industry. Could you tell us a little bit more about how it works and who's your target audience for this?
Yeah, totally. So we're launching our first credit card late this year. So, we're pre-launch today, but awfully close. And actually, for those that are listening, they might not see it, but this is actually like our first initial prototype of the card itself, which is pretty cool, including...
That is so cool.
Yeah, pretty neat. It's been fun. I've been working on it for, a year and some change. So finally holding some in my hands is really, really neat. So we're launching, think of it as like a Chase Sapphire Reserve competitor, effectively. We're launching, except unlike the Chase Sapphire Reserve, we will reward you for your spend on health and wellness and on health. Anything medical or healthcare is included too. We'll give you 6x back on any of that spend, 2.5 back on every other type of spend. And those points you'll be able to utilize, unlike a Chase or an Amex card, towards health and wellness products, services, and providers. We've actually built out a network of 1,000 health coaches, dietitians, all background checked, certification checked. So you can actually earn points, more points you'll earn with any other card, and those points you'll be able to utilize to get, your gym membership paid for, your, healthy food, or even to see a therapist or a health coach every single month.
That is absolutely phenomenal. I think, Derek, I am a fanboy for your company now.
I'm glad. You're very kind.
I saw on your website some of the places for where you get rewards, Sweet Green, berries, etc. I think in terms of kind of Gen Z and even the latter end of millennials, it seems like there's such a bigger focus on health and wellness.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting.
Our research says that health and wellness is now the primary lifestyle identity in this country, not travel. And it's not that anything's wrong with travel. It's just that health and wellness is now more important to people. It's a part of how they identify. I'd like to think I was kind of early on that trend 10 years ago when I started my first company in the space. But, we think we're sort of at the moment now where there's such an opportunity to build a credit card company that is more aligned with people's interests, and also, build a relationship with people long term so that we can help drive them to take healthier actions, more and better healthy actions in the future. So that's, we're pretty excited about it. And those brands that you saw on the website, those are all just kind of speculative brands, but they're the kinds of brands that we're talking to. And we can't share yet who's a formally benefits partner, but brands like that, I'll tell you.
That's super cool. I'm curious. So you compared yourself a little bit to the Chase Sapphire Reserved card, which is phenomenal for travel. It gives great points if you use it for travel. At the same time, if you use it other places, for example, like Amazon, you'll actually take a hit on the dollar value that if you just redeem the points for cash. So for your card in particular, is the biggest incentive going to be to use it towards health services and products? Is that where you get the biggest bang for your buck?
Don't use your Amex or Chase points on Amazon. That's true. That's good. That's good advice. So the idea is if you value health and wellness, we will provide the best bang for your buck. No one is going to earn you more points that are worth more than we are. You have to value health and wellness. If what you want to do is spend on travel, and you can, you're allowed to keep your cards and, use them for travel. We just want all the other spend. We find that people are increasingly frustrated or uncertain about the value of their travel points, frankly. And in particular, more and more people feel like the points don't really add up to that trip they were hoping for, but more just like to discount that trip to Detroit they're taking. And the aspirational sort of nature of them has never been lower. And frankly, the value of them has never been lower. Time and time again, I'm like, wow, I'm using my points, but I'm using these points on something that isn't totally worth it. So we think health and wellness will allow people to use it more often on things that will have a bigger impact.
I 100% agree. I'm curious, apart from the Chase Sapphire Reserve, are there any other competitors that you know about that are doing things similar to you?
Yeah, look, we're not the only people who are building credit cards. Obviously, there's a lot of people who are starting to build credit cards. There's been a big wave of obviously corporate and employer-focused cards like Brex and Ramp that have seen a lot of success. I'd like to think we're part of this sort of next wave of more consumer-facing cards. In the health and wellness space, there's no one who sort of had a big breakout, and we like to think that we'll be, we're definitely the first that's positioned as sort of a our first card as like a premium, kind of card, competing against the premium cards, travel cards that exist.
That's very cool. And what payment processing network are you guys using?
So our processor is on Galileo, and our general ledger to build the credit card functionality is on a company called Canopy. Our network is MasterCard. They've
Very
been
nice.
terrific partners. And we've got a bank and, KYC, AML, and compliance solutions, credit solutions. So, quite a lot of, like an amazing, frankly, like world-class stack of partners that have allowed us to build up the platform.
That's really cool. Let's dive in a little bit into the business model, right?
Sure.
Help our listeners understand how you make money. The common person doesn't know how do credit cards even make money, right? So
Sure.
talk to us a little bit more about that.
Yes, there's effectively like 4 ways a credit card makes money. And if you're part of a larger bank, you might actually not make money from the credit card, and you might just drive people to all your other services. But assuming you're not that, there's about 4 ways. The first and often the biggest is interest fees. So if you don't pay down your card every month, you get a pretty hefty interest fee on top of that, and credit card companies tend to make a lot on that. The second is on interchange. So when you spend using a card, depending on the type of card, debit or credit, depending on what rails it is, loosely 1% to 2% of every transaction is going back to what's called the program manager. So effectively, if you're like the company and you run the program and you acquire the customers, you make that percentage. If you think about it, that's a huge amount of money, especially if you can get people to spend a lot. And so that usually is what's paying for some of the rewards. But again, at the end of the day, that's a big way that credit card companies make money. The third is an annual fee. If there is an annual fee, might be a way that they make money. And the fourth is affiliate or offers, essentially, right? So like if you're actually people are not just using your card to spend, but decide where to spend, they might make some money off that. We kind of flip this on the head. We feel like at Ness, so that's generally how credit cards typically make money. And at a very basic level, if you can get people to sign up for it and spend money on it, you're probably going to be a successful credit card. And the 2 kind of key metrics being cost of acquisition and then obviously the cost of the benefits themselves. And so if you can beat that, you're in the money. For us, our focus from day one was to basically focus on interest at all. We think it's completely inconsistent with the world. We think financial health is health, basically.
Right.
And making money off interest is really, I think, kind of messed up. And frankly, my belief is that will become increasingly less and less popular and will position car companies like us best against the existing players who basically monetize off of people's financial duress. So we are very anti that, and it's actually $0 in all of our model. We do have some late fees, but that's just because otherwise people would never pay, right? So the second piece that the thing that we focus on most is actually the annual fee. So the annual fee, we're having pretty unparalleled partner benefits for the value of the card itself, but the annual fee you pay, as long as we negotiate good deals and offer great value and can make some margin on that, that really helps. The second is interchange. Of course, we again think we're going to be offering amazing rewards, but there's ultimately some breakage, and again, that comes down to how good our sort of partnerships and discounts are. And then third, we think affiliate is a really big opportunity for us. In our consumer research last year, it became pretty clear that people in the space are actively looking to discover new products and services in health and wellness. So we actually think we can play a big role in helping people, driving people to actually discover products and services. And we think along the way, if they use our card to spend on it, we'll make some money off that. So that's the model as we see it.
That's very interesting. And I think that kind of ties into the vision that you hinted at earlier that, hey, the credit card is the wedge. I'm going to take a wild guess here and say that if you were creating partnerships with so many different professionals and services that you can essentially spend on using the card, will there be some kind of discovery platform that you guys create? Or how are you thinking about expanding the vision once, you've made the wedge?
Yeah. So at its core, like the fundamental start of this business is a credit card. right? So, and then the hope is to launch other cards in the future, right? A whole suite of cards at different price levels. Our first one will be pretty premium, but then moving forward, we're hoping to make them more and more affordable. And so the first thing is pretty standard credit card, kind of how everyone understands it, except instead of earning extra points on your travel and using the points you earn on travel, it's health and wellness. So that's kind of like part one. Part two, and yes, we think we're building a really cool discovery platform that, will help drive decision making, but, like it's sort of 2.0 version of the offers you might get on like a Chase and an Amex. The wedge for us is in the relationship we build with people long term. Because what I found and why this business really started was at my last company, right? It was around like making health and wellness more accessible and the idea of sort of the narrative around health and wellness. How do you make it more friendly? Here with this company, what we're trying to do is ultimately we're trying to make it more affordable. And so we believe that health insurance fundamentally should pay for people to eat well and work out and take vitamin D and for their mental health. It should
Very interesting.
Yeah, we think that should be aligned, basically. The incentive should be aligned. However, in this country, unlike almost any other country in the world, most people get health insurance from their employer. And people stay with employers for a very short period of time, never shorter. And so from the health plan's perspective, there's no incentive to invest in your long-term health because by the time any of it would make any difference, you're at a different company and probably on a competitor health plan. So the idea here is to actually build a long-term relationship with people long enough that we can actually justify paying for people's long-term health in the short term. So for people who have a choice where they get their health insurance, and there's never been more people in this country who have a choice, for those people, we want to essentially offer them health plans that reimburse them for the things they care about and that sticks with them long enough that it makes financial sense.
So do you think that as you do this expansion down the line, you would add on a product which is a health insurance replacement or augmentation, or which way are you thinking about it?
Yeah, so in this country, never have more people, as I said, have a choice where they get their health insurance from. That could be because you're self-employed or freelance, right, and don't have an employer-sponsored plan. More and more employers are actually offering ICRAs or pre-tax dollars you could use towards picking a plan of your own. And so for those people, we plan to actually offer a full-fledged health insurance replacement. You're just buying it through your card, not through the open exchange, but through your card. Effectively think of it as like a different acquisition channel. In the beginning, almost certainly in partnership with the existing health plans, but then in the future, who knows? Like maybe we end up kind of partnering in a deeper way, building our own kind of solutions that are actually more affordable and actually pay for the things you care about, and in the process lead to healthier people. That makes better business.
That's really interesting. And I'm sure once you have data on what each individual is spending their money on from a health perspective, you can also price and risk much better and provide premiums accordingly.
And again, we probably wouldn't be like customizing personal plans based on your data. We're very careful about the data and we'll anonymize it, but there's no question that we should be able to build plans that are really kind of customized for our general consumer. You could even imagine in the future there being cards that come with health insurance built in. So for different times in your life, you could have a mental health card or a maternal health card, which comes with a certain type of insurance that you're personally opting into. Anyone can sign up for it, right? So it's not like we're not discriminating who gets to sign up for it, but the plan itself is offered for people who are interested in sort of this kind of unique solution.
That's amazing. I think there's so much cost bloat in the healthcare industry between health insurance providers and hospitals that it really takes a toll on the consumer. We need phenomenal founders like you, Derek, innovating in this space to paint a brighter future for Americans.
Sure as heck I'm trying. I do think, it's nice of you to say, I think there's no question to me that to truly disrupt and shift the healthcare system, the solutions are going to need to look unlike the healthcare system as we currently understand them. I'm a consumer guy, so my lens tends to be on consumer, and I think the consumerization is what will really change things in this space, and I hope I'm right.
That's awesome. We're all rooting for you. Last question right before we wrap up. How do you think about your strategy to win? How are you going to beat out the competition and break out from the noise?
I'll have a whole list for you. But I think that it's fundamental, at the fundamental core, my experience is in building like audiences of people who are passionate about being healthy. And so we think we're going to win best in building a brand and an audience and essentially a marketing funnel that's unparalleled in the space. We've invested heavily in content, similar-ish content to the, that I built at Greatist, but sort of if I had known everything then, what I do now. We are, working and pairing with influencers and partners in a really big way. And so we think the focus is very much on like how you actually get in front of people, start that relationship so that eventually you can deepen it through the offering of your product and service. So we think that's the marketing piece. Distribution is really key. We think the partnership piece is very important. I'm lucky to have built a lot of relationships with partners over the years. Again, I think that's a big piece of this, right? Who are you partnering with and what kind of class are you in terms of the relationships that you have? And so we think that, again, will lock in folks too. And then the third piece is the consumer experience itself, the product and how beautiful, effective, simple to use it is. We've invested very heavily in building a beautiful solution, and we think that'll keep people, engaged and also help change their behavior for the better in a way that other financial products don't always get the chance to because of our market.
I think we're going to have a lot to unpack in episode 2 about distribution and content. It's always a treat to learn from founders and consumers, especially how they think about acquisition. But more on that later. Just as we wrap up here, you guys recently raised a seed. Are you guys hiring? Is there anything you'd like to plug?
Yeah, well, we're always hiring. But the biggest thing is if you're interested in finding out more, sign up for our waitlist. We're at nesswell.com, like wellness, but flipped. Check out the site, sign up, and we'll let you know as we're launching products in the future. We also have a really cool newsletter called Nessy Sightings that shares accessible and affordable health and wellness products and services. And I would highly recommend signing up for it. That's just at thenessy.com, like the and then Nessy.
That's awesome. And lastly, if our listeners want to follow you, Derek, where would be a great place to do that?
Probably best on Twitter. I'm just at Derek Flanz.
Awesome. Very cool. And there you have it, folks. That's the end of our first episode here. Please catch us for episode 2, where we'll discuss strategies, tactics, and hacks about how Derek has gone about building his business. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode of The Breakouts. All right, and that wraps up today's episode. We really hope you enjoyed it. Now, just before I let you go, I wanted to reiterate one thing. We're trying to build the best podcast out there for aspiring entrepreneurs, and to do that, we need your help. The best way you can help us is by joining our Discord community. The link is in the description below, and then leaving us feedback. Tell us how we did. Tell us how we can improve. We're eagerly waiting to hear from you. Other than that, show us some love and follow us on Twitter at The Breakouts Pod. And I think that's everything I have for you. We'll see you next time on The Breakouts.